You know, most people think reinventing yourself after 50 is about finding the right opportunity, a new job, a new goal, a new plan. But here's the problem: none of it works if you're stuck thinking the same old way. You can try to change your career, you can redesign your life, but if you don't shift this one thing, nothing really sticks. It's like running in place. You work harder, but you really ain't moving forward. And this hits even harder if you're in your 50s, your 60s, or even your 70s, because no one gives you a roadmap for the midlife stage of life. You're expected to figure it out on your own. And here's what no one talks about: reinvention doesn't start with what you do, it starts with how you think. The one thing that makes reinvention possible after 50, a midlife mindset shift. Mhm. Changing how you see yourself, your future, and what's truly possible next. But here's the problem: most of us carry around these outdated midlife myths. You know, those stories we've heard about or inherited, what's possible at this age. And let me tell you, those old beliefs, they're running the show. Now, I know this because I spent decades leading change. I helped communities and organizations and leaders create real transformation in the nonprofit world. But when I entered midlife, that is, got to be 50, everything shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't about others, leading others, but it was really about myself, trying to lead myself through loss and burnout and change and differences and rebuilding, all of the transitions that happen over 50. So I had to take everything I knew about transformation and apply it to my own life. And that's what makes this different, this conversation that I'm having with you. I'm not teaching theory, I'm sharing what I live and what I now teach other women over 50 to do for themselves. That's why in today's free masterclass that we're going to do, I'm going to teach you 7 to 8, maybe even I'll throw in an extra one. So, 9 powerful strategies to shift your midlife mindset and unlock some real change. Now, these simple practical strategies that I want to help you with will help you see this stage of life in really a completely new way and stop second guessing yourself as a midlifer. Because once you shift how you think about midlife, everything you want next becomes possible. And listen, as we go along, if you're ready to take some action on everything we're talking about today, I created something just for you. It's a strategic action plan that you can use to craft your next steps in midlife. And it's the exact framework that I've used over and over again with clients and leaders and women. And so it works. And so you can grab it. There's a link in the description, a pinned comment, there's a QR code. So if you're ready to stop spinning in circles and start moving forward, we want to get into the first strategy. And I also want to say hello to my TikTok family. I see you out there. I'm seeing all the hearts. I love it. Make sure you share this video so that Others who could, find value in this will know and they'll join us. So, the first strategy, let go of the stories that keep you stuck. You can't reinvent yourself when dragging an old story behind you. And for a lot of women I talk to, leaders and high achievers, women who've checked all the boxes, that story or the myths, they sound like this. I'm too old to start something new. I missed my chance. Or I should be grateful for what I have. Why do I want more? It's too late for me. Now, do any of these sound familiar to you? Are you running them around in your head or have you heard it? Well, here's the truth. Those limiting beliefs, they're not facts. They're old programming, stories, old stuff that we hear, that society tells us, that our friends whisper to us. You know, and really, you can look at midlife as a chance to write something new because the story you tell yourself creates the life you live next. Now, I know this personally because for years my story was I can't build a business at this stage of my life. I'd spent years and years building my nonprofit career, leading organizations and raising millions of dollars for community and business causes. But I had always dreamed about starting my own business. And then I looked around and I was in time passes now. And I was in my 60s. And I believed it was too late for me. And that was the myth that I had until I realized, that story I was telling myself wasn't mine. It was something I heard or inherited or somebody else told me. And that story was holding me back. So I decided to rewrite it. I told myself, you know what? I got decades of experience. I know how to lead, and I've earned the right to fulfill my passion, to do my life on my own terms. And that story, it gave me a whole new ending for the beginning of that stage that I was in that we call midlife. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about the stories or the myths that are running around in your head. Start with that story and then ask yourself, now, does this story still fit with where you are today? And whose voice is writing this chapter for you? Is it yours or someone else's? Because when you rewrite your inner narrative, your story, you stop running in place and you start moving forward. Yes. Okay. So that's strategy one. But here's the thing, even with a new story, there's one thing that keeps many people stuck. You can't leave your life if someone else is writing the script. So let's talk about how to take back that pen that someone may be using to write your story, which is strategy number two for a midlife mindset shift. Take back control of what's next. So let me ask you, whose voice is in your head right now? And is it even yours? You can rewrite your story all day long, but if you're still following somebody else's script, you're going to stay stuck in the same role you've been playing for years. And here's the truth. Many of us, not everybody, but many of us, if we're being honest with ourselves, are living by someone else's rules we didn't even agree to, rules we've been following for so long, we don't even notice that they're there or where they came from. This is where many high achieving women in midlife find themselves. You've spent years being the go to person, the leader, the problem solver. But somewhere along the way, you started internalizing expectations, others' expectations, what you should do, what you shouldn't want, what's appropriate at this age. And let me tell you, them rules, they're not facts. They're someone else's limitations. I had to ask myself, whose voice is running the show here? Was it, one of my old bosses or my parents, who I dearly love? Okay. But it was their story, their rules. Society, I was hearing things. You hear things, we know we do. And more importantly, I know I had to come to the point where I asked myself, well, whose pen is writing my story? And more importantly, whose pen is going to write my next chapter? Was it going to be me or somebody else? So if you've been feeling stuck, second guessing yourself, this is where you take your power back. Okay. And so I want you to write down, this is one of my techniques I call the voice audit. Okay. Because you're trying to figure out whose voice it is that you're listening to. So you want to do this audit. Okay. I want you to write down 3 things you keep telling yourself about why you can't do something right now. Okay? So write those 3 things down. I know you got it. Everybody got it. I got mine. You got yours that you can't do right now. And then next to each one of them, I want you to write, who told me this? Am I still choosing to believe it? Okay. So that's what I want you to write down next to each one. Who told me this and do I still believe it? Okay. And I want you to do that. And it's a simple exercise, but you need to ask yourself that and be honest. Because let me tell you, here's the thing. You can't lead your life if you're still playing by somebody else's rules. This is how you reclaim your authority. You stop running on autopilot and you take back control of what happens next. That strategy, let me know what y'all think about that strategy and taking back control of how we design our next steps. Give me some comments on it. Tell me whether or not this is resonating with you. But even when you reclaim your voice, there's still one thing that can hold you back: fear. So, how do you move forward when fear still is there whispering in your ear? That gets us to strategy number 3. I want you to intentionally think about opening the door to new possibilities. Okay? So let's be honest about this. I, I just want you to really think about this whole thing about fear. It really isn't something we outgrow. And it's not a sign that something's wrong with you. Fear is normal, it's natural. Fear is trying to protect you. And if you're in your 50s or 60s or beyond, you probably have some very good reasons to be cautious. You've lived enough life to know how things don't always go according to plan. Let's be honest about it. That's all right. Okay. But here's the thing. Fear usually focuses on what you might lose. Okay. It rarely reminds you of what you stand to gain. And if you only listen to fear, you'll stay right where you are, stuck, second guessing, waiting for the perfect time that never ever comes. I know this one personally, okay? Because when I was deciding whether to launch my business, I'm telling you, again, I was scared. I was scared of failing, scared it was too late, scared of looking foolish after building this successful career that everyone respected. Um, but I was scared all that. And I was also scared about moving from a W-2 with that paycheck coming in regularly every 2 weeks or so, you know, into something completely different. It was very scary. But then I did ask myself, um, well, and this, I want you to hear this now, again, because we're talking mindset shifts. I asked myself, what if it works? What if it was exactly what I'm meant to do next? What if the real risk isn't taking the chance, but staying stuck in a life I've already outgrown? What if that is the greater risk, the thing that I need to be more afraid of? That is, that I would stay stuck in a life that I had already outgrown and wasn't happy in living my passion. That question changed everything. So I want you to ask yourself, what if the best thing that could, what is the best thing that could happen if you take the next step anyway? What if it works? Because, fear is always going to be there, but possibility deserves a voice at the table too. So I'm not saying ignore fear. Don't say, Dr. Geneva, well, you're being so optimistic. There are things in life we need to be concerned about and we need to focus on. I get that. I do that. Got it. All I'm suggesting is that you bring something else to sit at the table with you. You could be focused. You could be very thoughtful about your next steps. You could have some fear. Okay. But I want you to bring that question to the table. That is, what if I didn't take the move? Where would it leave me? So close your eyes for a moment and visualize yourself. Picture yourself 5 years from now. That's what I want you to do. You took the chance. You made the move. What's different? How do you feel? What's one thing that future would thank you for starting today? Okay. And so you can do that. It's very easy to close your eyes and envision that. So that's the strategy. Keep that door open for new possibilities. But even when you see what's possible, you still need something else. And here's where many women underestimate themselves. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom. It's time to own it. And if this is you're feeling that this wisdom is important, I want you to think about this fourth strategy, which is own the wisdom you've earned. Now, here's something many of us don't do when we're in our 50s and 60s and beyond. We don't hear enough that we're already carrying everything we need for what's next. You already got it in you. You have those assets. You don't need to start over. You don't have to prove yourself from scratch. You've already earned what it takes through your lived experience, your hard lessons, and your deep wisdom. Because it's just not experience. This is a mastery that you've come from. You're a master in solving problems. You're a master in communicating. You're a master in lived experiences. This is about knowing how to navigate challenges, how to make things happen, and how to lead. You got that. You know that. Even when the stakes are high, you've got it. But here's the problem. Many of the women that I talk to, they underestimate that wisdom, not because it isn't there, but because you've been living with it for so long that you forget how valuable it really is. So I want to say that again because I want you to understand it. Your mastery that you have, the things that you do without even thinking, back to that autopilot. You've been doing it for so long, you don't recognize how valuable those things that you have really are. But here's the thing, other people see it, they know it. They do. They see it, they be peeping it. But you underestimate or don't even recognize that value. So the question is, are you ready to own it? Um, when I first stepped into coaching women leaders, I thought I was really doing something new, but then I realized, well, wait a minute, I'm not. I spent decades leading organizations, transforming communities, guiding people through change. And if you're an employer, which I was and had employed hundreds of people, I was a coach. I coached and mentored in that part of my life, in that part of my career. So when I decided to start my business, and an important piece of my business is coaching, I realized I wasn't reinventing myself from scratch. I was reapplying everything that I already knew. And that made all the difference. So I want you to ask yourself, what wisdom have you earned that a younger woman wishes she had? Because midlife isn't the end of the road. That's why we're talking about these midlife mindset shifts. It's not the end of the road, it's the vantage point that really gives you the clarity for what really matters and how to make that happen. So I want you to write down 5 lessons or insights you've earned through experience. I want to put it in that perspective. You've earned it, not just learned it, but you've earned the right to talk about insights because you have that wisdom. And I'm not talking about skills you learned from a book, but the wisdom you've gained through what you've been through. Okay. So that's your fuel for reinvention, and it's already yours. It's yours. You got it. And if you really want to spend some deep time in figuring that out, you need to go grab the strategic action plan that I have for you, developed it just to help you with identifying these areas. And it's free. And there's a link in the description, in the comments, a QR code as well. So listen, once you can see that wisdom clearly, you realize you don't need to do it all at once, um, because you know you can be settled in. Well, I've got this. I've got this wisdom, um, and perhaps I can take the next steps. And I want to talk to you about those next steps and how you do it, because small moves are really what build momentum. So, strategy number 5 is to start small, build momentum. So I want to talk about something I wish I had learned sooner. You probably heard this before yourself. Take massive action. I can't tell you how many times I read that and learned that and reflected on that. And I'll be honest, every time I read it, it made my heart race, but not in a good way. At the stage I was in my life, leading organizations, mentoring, navigating my own personal transitions I was going through, the idea of massive anything felt overwhelming. I was already carrying too much. And the last thing I needed was another pressure to go big or go home. And that's why I started rethinking how we take action, especially as a woman in midlife. And I believe that we don't need massive action. We need meaningful, intentional action, strategic moves that honor who we are and where we're going. And that's what I teach. And that's what I got certified in, women centered coaching, because the traditional methods of providing advice and guiding people through coaching, particularly women, are not grounded in the realities of our life and who we are. Because again, um, doing things always so big and massive, uh, I, s- I spent a lifetime, you've spent a lifetime doing that. And so many things can be overwhelming. So that's why I teach small steps, because that's what builds big momentum. And, forget the pressure to make one bold, life changing move. The magic is really in the micro moves. 1 hour, one conversation, one decision. It adds up faster than you think, and it's sustainable. Yeah. So when I was earning my coaching certificates, and yes, I went and did that even after decades as a leader and getting my doctorate in leadership. I wanted to get the certifications in coaching. I didn't have endless hours to do it. I had responsibilities. That's what I had. But I carved out 1 hour a day. That was it. And those hours added up to something powerful. And that's how you can create your next chapter, not by overwhelming yourself, but by moving forward one intentional step at a time. So, what small thing can you do? Just think about it again. Tiny steps. Choose one action that could move you to your next thing that you've always been dreaming about. Block out 1 hour on your calendar this week. Focus on the activity, not the outcome. Be focused on that activity. Block the time out and show up for yourself. It doesn't have to be massive, it just has to move you forward. Okay, one step at a time. But I want to tell you, taking them small steps without a clear plan, just like that's like treading water. So we want to map out where you're headed. And that brings us to strategy number 6. Turn what now into a clear game plan. Here's the hard truth. Hope is not a strategy. And reinvention, it doesn't happen by luck. You got to design it. You really do. Because if you don't set a direction, you'll wake up next year in the same place, wondering how you got there. And I get it. After everything you've already accomplished, it's easy to think, I should have this figured out by now. But clarity doesn't happen by accident. It really is a choice. I remember when I was rebuilding after some personal loss, that I didn't have the energy um, or the inclination for the guesswork. I was leading organizations by the day and trying to get myself through, lead my own self through uncertainty and grief and pain at night. And what got me through, it wasn't just motivation, it was having a plan. When I finally stopped and put together my ideas, my thoughts, my wishes about what's next, who's in my corner, how will I know I'm moving forward? That's what made the difference. And it'll make the difference for you too. Choose one goal, personal, professional, or both. Outline some milestones that will be able to tell you, hey, I'm making progress if I do this or that. Decide who's in your support system. You don't want this to be a solo job. Um, so often we forget the resources that we need when we're carrying out a plan. And who's in your support system is such an incredible, important thing to think about it. And then once you choose your goal and the steps and who's in your support system, I want you to put it on your calendar. I want you to block it out. That what I mean by put it on your calendar means I want you to give yourself a timeline. Because a goal without a deadline, that's just a wish. Okay. All right. So let me know what you think about that strategy. How many of you all have some clarity, some plan, some game plan um, that you that you can implement, that you can carry out. And if you need help with it, that strategic action plan guide that I put together, it's very simple. It takes you through step by step on the things you need to think about and the things you need to do. It's free and it's pinned in the comments. Uh, Reinvention at 50, a strategic action plan for what's next. I had to remember that's the whole title, but bottom line is a helpful guide for you and it's free. So listen, here's another mistake that I see too often, that um, we turn our plans, we just finished talking about plans, into another exhausting to-do list. But what if this whole process of reinvention and designing a plan could feel lighter, more joyful? And that's where joy comes in. And this strategy of rediscover the joy you had before life got so serious is one that I want you to take seriously. This is serious business when we talk about joy. You remember when we were kids, how joy came so naturally. We chased what, turned us on, lit us up without guilt, without permission. Then life got serious. Careers and caregiving and doing everything right, all the right things. But here's the truth: reinvention doesn't have to be another obligation when you fill it with joy. So, one of the things I want you to do is bring back joy into any reinvention process that you're going through. And so, how do you bring back joy, that energy? Well, first of all, write down three things that make you feel energized. That's what we're talking about. Make you feel energized, make you feel happy, that you like to do, and incorporate one thing in your life every week. Now, I've gotten to the point of where I do this every day. So every day there's some joy. I'm intentional about putting joy in my life. Okay. So I do it on a day-to-day basis. So strategy number 7 recognizes that this needs to be a joyful process. But even when you're finding that joy and having fun doing, there's one thing you can't forget. You really shouldn't do this alone. And I had talked about this earlier, to not do this alone. So, strategy number 8 is to surround yourself with people who expand what's possible. I don't believe you can reinvent your life in a vacuum. I think who's in your corner matters. When you're surrounded by people who also have done what you want to do, that's an extra thing. Um, and people who believe in your next chapter, even before you fully see it. When you have those kind of people around you, you move faster. You take bolder steps. You stop second guessing all the time. Okay. So, midlife, I want you to hear this for me because there's some real talk out there. Midlife is not a time to be around people who play small. Okay. And so, who are you spending your most time with? Do they expand or shrink what's possible for you? So, here's what I want you to do with this strategy to make it come alive. I want you to, I call this my possibility circle map. And it's one of the things that I use um, with my clients. And that is you identify a certain number of people, let's say 5. Here's what I want you to do: 5 people. I want you to identify 5 people who inspire you. Okay. 5 people who give you that inspiration, who motivate you. And then for each of them, I want you to find one way to connect deeper with them this month. Mhm. So it might be, you're going to email somebody who inspires you. You're going to have coffee or go out, tea, have a virtual chat. You may want to book a call with me to help you figure that out. But what I want you to do is be intentional about building your circle with people who support you, who want the best for you, who may not know how to do that, but you know that they inspire them. So you want to connect even deeper with them. So just pick 5 people. Everybody got 5 people. Think hard. Okay. And then I just want to talk about this glue that I think really holds everything together. And without it, reinvention could seem almost impossible. Well, certainly an uphill climb. But with it, you become unstoppable. And strategy number 9, very simple: be on your own side. Mhm. Now, you've led teams, families, communities. You held it all together for everyone else. But when it comes to yourself, you often are your own worst critic. Here's the truth: you cannot invent your life, reinvent your life while tearing yourself down from the inside. Reinvention isn't just what you do, it's how you treat yourself along the way. So it's time to be on your side, because if you're not, who will be? Okay. So I just want to, have you reflect on what would you say to your best friend if she were feeling stuck. Now, say that to yourself. And then do a compassion letter. Okay, that this again is another technique. I love this letter. And what you do is you take a piece of paper and you write yourself a letter as if you were your closest friend. So you imagine yourself as being your best friend. My best friend, Sandy, um, has we've been besties for over 50 years. And when I'm feeling down or what have you, I can pick up the phone and call her at an instant, and everything changes, okay, just by having that conversation. Well, you're going to have this conversation with yourself. You're going to write yourself a letter as if you were your best friend. So you're going to be kind and you're going to be real and you're going to be on your own side because you've earned it. And when you are, everything gets lighter. Okay, so I know we've covered a lot today. And if you're thinking, where do I even start? That's exactly why I put that strategic action plan together for reinvention after 50. It's going to help you take those mindset shifts we've talked about today, the myths, tackle them all and turn them into doable steps. There's a link in the description in the pinned comments. So go on and get it right now. And there's a QR code that you're looking at now. So I taught today 9 powerful midlife mindset shifts that can unlock your reinvention after 50. And if you're anything like the women I work with, you're realizing, it, this mindset stuff is important. And it isn't about tweaking your mindset. I ain't been talking about no tweaks here. I've been talking about intentional strategies, practical actions that you can take. And this is about seeing yourself, your experience, and this stage of life in a totally new way. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to let go of the stories that keep you stuck and take back control of what happens next. Look beyond fear and focus on what's possible. Use the wisdom you've earned to move forward faster. Make those small moves that lead to big change. Build momentum. Create a game plan that works for you. It ain't just in your head. You got to have a strategy that makes sense. And along the way, you've got to rediscover the joy you had in life before things got so serious. Remember always to build a circle around you that lifts you higher. And at the end of the day, you must be on your own side. So, what's next? Reinvention isn't random, it's not luck, it is a design. And so, I want you to think about this. I want you to give me some comments. Let me know if this is resonating with you. Because again, reinvention isn't about becoming someone brand new, it's about becoming fully who you've always been. And really, frankly, it starts right now, and you can do that. So I want you to know in our next master class, because this is a master class and it's free to you. So I love for you to join me every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on all the platforms. But next time, um, particularly if you're saying, I love all of this, but what's my next move? Next time, I'm going to show you how we turn all of these shifts and myths we've been talking about into an action plan that actually builds real momentum, that small steps that create big results. You've heard me talk about game plan. So I want to focus on that because what I want to have happen is that you take these moves because you can do this. Everything is inside you. The assets that you need, you want, you got. They're already inside of you. So I want you to stay tuned for next time. It'll be 2 weeks from today. Let me just tell my followers and everyone who's here. I'm a keynote speaker for at Wayne State University here in Michigan. It's Women's History Month. I'm giving a talk on Leave No Woman Behind. I'm very excited about it. And it's the same time that I'm also with you. So I'll do something different for next week. But the week after, again, we'll pick up our every Wednesday at 9 o'clock schedule. I want to see if you have questions that I should be answering right now. You know, we do our questions at the end. Let me say good morning to everyone. Dr. Pierre, I was wondering where you were. I didn't see you last week. Good morning to you from Dallas, all of you. Um, Thank you for being here. Did I see Elaine in the house in Nigeria? Good. I'm glad some of you are talking about using that voice audit. Please, Abdul, so good to see you as well. And all of you, my friends on TikTok, I see you there. Um, so I just wanted to say hello. Um, oh, we've got Najiri who's here in the 30s. Okay, 30s, but I'm always scared of starting because in my mind I'm starting from scratch. But now my motto is I'm starting from wisdom. That girl, I'm so happy. If anything, if you picked up anything, that's right. You are not starting from scratch. Build on what you have. And again, it's so fascinating that we sometimes we've oftentimes we've mastered these skills and abilities and we forget. I mean, because we're on autopilot. We don't recognize how valuable it is. Colette, I'm so glad you're here with you. I thought I saw Elaine. So, Elaine, you're always on time. You're never late. So glad to see all of you. And Dr. Pierre, thank you. Please use the techniques and gain the insights we've talked about. Now, what questions do we have? Let me see. Um, Okay. So one of the okay, so sounds good. So drop any questions that you have in the chat. I can answer them. I will answer them. It's so good to see you. See you every Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Don't forget, if you want that strategic action plan guide, it's free for you. There's a QR code right up here, um, and it's simple. I put together something that's really a simple process. You get it, you follow it, it works. I've spent decades doing this kind of work. So I wanted to put all my wisdom, experience, skills, and abilities into something that would be simple for you but powerful. So go through that guide. Let me know how it turns out for you. And if there's any places that you're stuck at any time, I do personal one-to-one coaching. So I'd be delighted to work with you. Okay. Peace. See y'all next time. Bye.